Storms this late afternoon and evening that could be strong to severe. Thinking is that most probably will not be severe, but a few, if they develop, could kind of have supercellular rotating sort of characteristics to them, and it seems reasonable that then that means a few could potentially try to produce large hail in particular. I know a lot of times when we say rotating thunderstorms, people immediately think tornadoes. That is probably not what we're dealing at with this here. It's more likely to be some large hailstones, maybe some strong wind gusts. And luckily, there's a lot of maybes as to whether or not we even necessarily get anything that's strong to severe. The threat is there because storms, because the colder air aloft could rapidly develop and produce active and potentially severe weather here. There's nothing right now on Doppler radar around the region. We are still dry at this point, still kind of waiting things. There's not a lot of lower level moisture. It's part of the reason why, again, that and kind of the overall setup, the reason why there's not really a tornado threat to speak of that we're overly concerned with this, but we do anticipate that we will have a few strong to severe thunderstorms. The severe weather risk, as you can see, does include all locations in the area in the northeast, really third of the state in particular. So all into that level 2 risk, what we sometimes call slight risk, but level 2 out of 5. Again, more reports tend to be in the 3, 4, and 5. But again, that is more than just no reports because the overall setup is such that we're going to get some rotating thunderstorms with this. And thus the reason why we could have, some more active weather. I'm going to lead with one we don't typically lead with, and that's the hail threat. I think the most likely impact we see is large hail out of these. They're rotating storms, but that rotation working to hold up hail or, water droplets that then freeze and then form in the hailstones as they, cycle through the atmosphere. So hail is the main impact with this, to go along with perhaps some damaging wind gusts as the storms, kick out some of that rain-cooled air. But they will be rotating thunderstorms. But again, the tornado risk, as you can see here, they didn't even put us in the 2% risk on this. The point being that the structure of the atmosphere, while tornadoes are not impossible, certainly nowhere near the threats that we've had recently. And as a result, again, not much of a tornado threat. It is, in my opinion, primarily hail that we will end up getting out of these, what we call northwest flow thunderstorms. We owe that to kind of the way in which they kind of move into the area. Here's a look at a version of Storm Tracker here, and I'm going to see if I can zoom this in a little bit more. And so this would be kind of picking things up. Let me think. That'd be, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noontime, 1, 2, 3. You can see by that point we have a few thunderstorms kind of developing back to the north and west, 4, 5, 6 o'clock or so. Let me double check, make sure that's right. Yep, 6 p.m. So again, some thunderstorms trying to roll in from the north and west, more likely, and this is one of the tricky things on the forecast today. Projections do kind of have them kind of hitting their stride, as John likes to say, over top of us. Notice how you get a lot more of those pinks starting to show up there and purple sort of colors as they really kind of strengthen in that 6 to 7 p.m. time period. Again, one projection, but the time period really has been kind of late this afternoon in that 5 to really 8 p.m. time period where they kind of really start to strengthen. Hail, again, I want to say this, despite the fact we will have rotation on some of these, hail is the main impact that they will see. And you'll note that they get a lot stronger when they head kind of south of us in some form or fashion, could upgrow to more of a strong and damaging wind threat as that kind of complex of storms develops out of this. But again, what we call northwest flow storms, because they move in from the northwest, a decent amount of shear, cold air aloft combination, again, that's the hail threat. So again, kind of reviewing some timing here for a moment. Again, we'll look at a different projection here in just a second to kind of double check the timing on the last couple of runs here. In fact, let's just go right to that because you can see it's similar timing where, again, this is probably 6 p.m. Yeah, 6 p.m. there. 7 o'clock, you can see that really 6 to 7 p.m. time period or 5 to 7 time period where some of these storms start strengthening a lot more. They do show some extended shear tracks on them, but again, I think that rotation is hail-producing rotation more than tornado or something along those lines. And you'll notice, it gets a lot more substantial just east of here and south here in all likelihood. Now, if storms develop slightly earlier, obviously, you can position those more over top of us. So again, the big threat, the more likely threat, the most likely threat is large hailstones out of this and perhaps damaging wind gusts as it grows upscale into kind of a complex of thunderstorms. Most indications are a little bit east of us on that potential for the way that happens. And again, reverting back here to the tornado threat, we've had a lot of tornadoes recently. To reference the amount of moisture here, this is a dew point measure of moisture. It's based on the same scale as the temperature. This would be 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. We have the greens here. Again, that's a dew point that's below 60 degrees. And typically, you know, even in the most optimistic appraisal of tornadoes, i.e. most likely to see them, you know, most generous tornado environment, in this part of the country, we've got to be somewhere mid-60s for dew points. We're not there. And we had some days last week, mid-60s, where we were not really producing tornadoes. You know, it wasn't until we got the deeper moisture. So the moisture does go up a little bit more late this evening, as you could see in some spots. I mean, it's not enough for that to be the case. So again, tornadoes I think are off the table, a non-factor. I think that hail remains the biggest and most likely impact that we probably end up seeing for today and for this evening. So again, if you missed it off the top, there is a threat for severe weather, includes all locations in the viewing area. Hail main impact, maybe some strong winds if the storms can grow upscale. I think the threat certainly is greatest to our east, as storms kind of work into Alabama. But if they develop even an hour earlier, they're over top of us. And so there will be rotation in some of these. It'll be, you know, something that we'll be watching. But hail, strong wind gusts, main factors. And to kind of revert, in case you caught us off the top, I do want to show this one more time. That if you maybe missed it, here's the tornado threat for today. Storm Prediction Center, Norman, Oklahoma, does not show one for us at all. They show wind and they show hail. But again, because of this, that moisture, we're not looking at a tornado threat for today, thankfully. So anyway, updates tonight on WTVA 9 News. I'm technically off today, so John will be giving you updates starting at 4 o'clock this evening. He's got this, and the whole crew up there are in good shape. All right, y'all have a good day, safe day, and we will talk to y'all soon.